Hey y'all, welcome to What's the Deal with Hustle is today's topic. I almost forgot. I almost did that thing like I did the last time where I was like, what is it? I don't remember. What's the deal with hustle? This is a show where we talk about all sorts of things that we're really curious about to try to generate more power and better results in our life and our business. And I am Amy Burks, and I help purpose-driven founders and brands to scale without sacrifice. And
I'm Kelly Sheets, and I'm a leadership coaching consultant, and I help leaders and creative entrepreneurs to experience more ease and fulfillment.
So today we're going to talk about hustle. And we both actually, I think, really love, all of these topics are things that we love to talk about, but, I love it because I wrote a book called The Hustle Free Business. And because for the last, however many, 5 years or more, have really just been focused on how do we make it easier and easier and easier and easier to generate better and better and better results, mostly in business. Like that's the premise that I really come at, especially with my clients and with myself. But, I love this topic because I think that there's so much of this idea of like, you have to do constantly out there in the world in general, for sure. But especially in the world where we tend to hang out and like the coaching industry, online marketing industry, all of that, everybody's just like constantly so freaking busy and got to be doing things.
Yeah.
And we talked about value a few episodes ago. And I think that there's so much of this, like humanistic desire to correlate busyness and doingness with value, like the value of you as a human. And I know that you and I both believe that that's not true. Right. I would love for you to just share the story of that moment that you had in Bali when your whole perspective really, really shifted.
Yeah. And I was actually thinking, due to that moment, which I'll share, my whole business has been set up on this because everyone comes to me and says, there's got to be something else, and really it's that they're looking for fulfillment and ease so that they have more energy to do the things they love. So in Bali, as you know, I took a private client there, and I was basically every morning, this woman, people pay me a lot of money to take them privately to Bali. So it felt a little nerve-wracking, like, okay, I want to give her the best experience possible. And so every morning I was sitting quietly in meditation to say, please show me what the best experience I can give this woman. And every single morning, and I've never, ever had this before, I don't think I've ever had it after, actually. Every single morning, I got the same message very loud and clear to me. And that was, for me, it was, above all else, who you are being determines your results. Above all else, who you're being determines your results. So I started really feeling into that because at the time I was coming off the tail end of a lot of doing. It's my nature. I have a lot of energy. I'm a doer, I'm active. So hearing that was really right amongst this exploration and experimenting I was doing around what is required to get the results I want or that I find interesting, I'm curious about. And where am I diluting those results? And what I found was that huge amount of the things I was doing weren't actually, they were just wasting energy. They were doing everything I was told to do, but it was wasting energy. And then that conversation that came into my mind around the state of being, I really started letting go of all that doing and started exploring, well, what does that even mean? Like, so if my state of being is more powerful than what I'm doing, then what does that look like? So that journey started in the start of 2016. And so since then, it's just been my journey. And so sometimes I nail it and sometimes I get caught in the cycle again, but mostly journey.
What? Are you admitting that you're human? Are you admitting that you're human? Come on.
I am.
I think I want to say it one more time, and I'm just going to repeat it slowly because I really want everybody to hear it and allow it to sink in. It's the idea that who you are being determines your results. And so I think that let's take that apart just a little bit and talk about kind of the difference between, because I think, I've heard people say, I'm a human being, not a human doing and stuff. And that's like, I get it. Right. But like, we really do, like our programming, our conditioning, our external environment, like all the things that we are privy to as humans makes it very easy to think that we are only valuable if we're doing, if we haven't done, I am not enough because I haven't done enough, you know? And I love, by the way, you know, to kind of bring Jeff into this, your partner, Jeff, and how he has said, when you're feeling too something, you do something, right? You're feeling too, you know, small, too scared, too big, too whatever, then you like do something. That's how we end up being reactive. And so what I love is that really the opposite or the antidote to that is being responsive and like coming from a place that's inward rather than external to us. And I just like, you talk.
Well, let me say on the, of course we're always doing, we're in human bodies. We are, even if you do nothing except eat and poop and talk, like, and hug and have sex and like all the basics of humanity, like you're still doing. So it's not that it's not doing, it's rather that you're not doing it based on the activity of the mind that is just this nonsensical, egoic, crazy train. That's where most people are wasting energy. So it's not that I'm just sitting on a Zen Zafu meditating and never doing anything. But what it is I'm bringing my being, my state of being, and the state of being is not a state of mind. The state of mind is what we typically think of. It's like, oh, I'm in a curious state of mind. But a curious state of being is the mental, the emotional part of us, the physical part of us, and that all-encompassing energetic part of us. All those parts create our state of being. You know, you can have an emotional state, you can have a mental state, you can have a physical state, but when those all come together to one, that creates a state of being. Or they're all separate, but then that creates a certain state of being. So the idea is that you're attending to your state of being more than you're listening just to your mind. Your mind, it's like, oh my God, you didn't send out enough emails this week. And like, now you didn't reach enough people. And then you're not going to make enough money. And then you're going to fail. And then you're going to live under the bridge and you're going to die alone. You know, it's like that stuff. So then we start sending the emails in reaction to the chaos, which is just a state of mind that is going to pass. So it's really checking your state of being and getting masterful at understanding what state of being you're in, so that you realize that whatever conversation you're going in, whatever you're doing, you're bringing a chosen state of being into that. So you're creating from that state of being, rather than I'm just going to do a bunch of stuff frantically and then hope that my mind is appeased and hope that I like myself or feel like I've done enough. And then it starts again tomorrow. You know, there's this constant up and down roller coaster. Where when you first start with the state of being, you're really checking yourself. And then you're bringing that into the recipe of what I'm about to create. It really helps you decide if my state of being is to be present. And then I can really see that's some crazy thoughts going on over there. I don't need to do that. That doesn't work for me. Right. And then you just let it go. You practice letting it go. But if you're out of balance and you're not conscious of your state of being, you're just going to react to that. It's like, you need to eat those chips. Okay.
Oh God.
You know, like, it just gets crazy in there.
I know. And I think that, you know, it reminds me of when, I mean, so many different times in my life, right, where like before I had this level of self-awareness, right, where I can now see it when I'm doing it, or a lot of the time I can see it when I'm doing it, maybe not all the time, but you know, I can remember early on in my business feeling like I just have to keep doing. I got to do all the activities, I got to do all the things and all the things that everybody's telling me to do, and I should do this. And you know, we talked a lot about that in our last conversation too, about FOMO, and like, you know, there's so many, like, there's just so much that we could be doing. And if you're coming from that place of, I feel not enough, I don't know enough, I'm not good enough at this yet, like, which is often, I think, you know, I'm afraid, I think is the thing, right? That is the catalyst, is I'm afraid of something. There is something that I'm afraid of, and I got to fix that. So I better do more. And so for me with my business back then, that was really the driver, was I am afraid I'm going to fail. I'm afraid I'm not enough. I'm afraid nobody's going to say yes. I'm afraid that, you know, my husband is going to think that I'm an idiot. I'm afraid that I'm going to die alone. Like everybody's going to hate me and I'm going to die alone. So I better
This is like the true definition of hustle right here.
Totally.
Right. That's what you're truly, when you are hustling, it's based on fear. It's just based on fear. Because it's just not required, but we believe it is because we've been told by institutions, and then we pay high-level coaches lots of money to tell us to do more. there's all this provoking of that fear. And the reality is when you can check in with yourself to that, your state of being, now you get more impact. So that's the other thing about this, right? So you can do 500 activities over here and say, get $500. Okay. Or you can do 5 activities from your state of being whatever you choose it to be, say radiant, loving, present. You can do 5 activities and get $500. So it's just like this choice of where I want to spend my energy resources. And so this came up, we decided to talk about this today because my good friend, Kelly Ray Roberts is an artist. She's beautiful work. She licenses her work. She's got, a big audience, and we've talked, and she talks transparently with her audience as well about hustle, she calls it aligned hustle rather than hustle, because it's that place of when it's like this drive to go. And it's like, you can't keep up. And she says a lot of people in her circles, which are different than ours, are having the same conversation around that hustle. So I realized even talking in the conversations with her, we were talking about business, and that was getting triggered in me again. So I had to, and this was over the last many months, and I had to really realize, Kelly, your mind is getting very busy, even thinking about these busy people, thinking about all that they're doing and all the hustle and the past conversations about what they had been doing. It was triggering this old addictive, like I'm addicted to doing, So I had to really check myself multiple times. I had to stop and realize this state of being I am in is fearful and chaotic. It is not who I want to be. And so I had to keep reining it in until it resettled into, okay, I'm going to be present and responsive and simplify and do the things that you and I have talked about a million times. But that place of the hustle, I'm like, that word doesn't even, I don't like that word anymore. It's so funny because when you wrote your book and called it that, it's almost like that word got broken up with. It was like,
I know,
no more, that word gone, never even used it. We don't talk about that word
We don't
anymore.
at all.
Yeah.
It's so funny. It's so funny.
Yeah. It's not in our world.
I know. And I'm like, occasionally I'll see people wearing shirts or with mugs or water bottles or stickers or whatever that says like hustler or, never give up the hustle or all this. And I'm like, fuck that. I'm sorry. I'm like, whatever, like who wants to, why is there, I think one of the things that I was really curious about when I was writing the book too, was why are we so addicted? Right. I think that's a really good word to use because, I think addiction comes because we're afraid of something, like because we seek something external to ourselves to make us feel okay. And so whether it's more work, the hustle, a drug, alcohol, sex, whatever, right? Like your phone, like whatever the things are, we're seeking to fill a deficit within us by something outside of us. And so
we're trying to make that fear go away,
right?
Or fix the fear,
right? Fix it.
Like
exactly.
If I do this thing, I'll either take care of that fear, like get it off my plate, or that I will make it go away. I won't have to think about it. Like if you're drinking, people that drink, it's like, I don't need to think about that anymore. It's a safety mechanism. It's like, what we do is we just keep putting coins in the fear bank. It's like every time you hustle, and so I just want to be clear. It's not that, again, you're not going to sit on the couch and eat bonbons. Hustle, being versus doing isn't that you don't do anything. It's that you let go of the fear base so that you're present, so that you're coming from the state of being you want. So whatever you're doing from the state is creating from that state, right? So that whatever you create has that resonance in it. And then whatever creates from that has that resonance in it. So you're actually just creating from a non-fear state. You're making your life. And what that did for me, I can't even feel it, is that we used to talk about this a lot, having low grade anxiety. Like a lot of high achievers have this constant low grade anxiety that drives them. And it's just low grade fear that carries around. So it's really the diminishment of that. By focusing on the beingness of who we are, it diminishes our fear state. And it might arise, like I said, it did for me, a couple of weeks ago, but then I see it. It's so obvious, where before it wasn't obvious. I'd just start doing stuff and freak out and be like, I'm so unsatisfied. I'm so unfulfilled. This all feels so hard. I have to do more. I can't. And then you do more, and then you need to do more. It's like more ideas arise, more thoughts arise. That's what's crazy about it. It's like, there's more opportunity to keep feeding the fear. So it's really the settling down. So you're using less energy on your thinking because you're using your state of being to create too.
It's interesting because this is what I was thinking about, right? When I was writing the book, I was like, where did it come from? What, and, I was like, the Puritan work ethic and all that stuff. And in our country, in America, for example, right? Like you get a medal, a Medal of Honor, you get a pat on the back, you get all the Boy Scout, Girl Scout badges, like all the things for being a hard worker. And I always question that, like, even before I really embraced this idea of be hustle free or like lose the hustle or any of that, or really started using, because that's like about 5-6 years ago is when I really, August is 6. So like 6 or more years ago, it's been a long time that I really embraced, this is the philosophy and these are the frameworks that I'm going to use with my clients to help them get better results by being more responsive without like all of that stuff. I was looking at all that and it's just everywhere. And because it's everywhere, like, I think that the addiction can be hard to break at times. But what I realized was it's also in my head, like the story that I tell myself about it, And so if I'm constantly telling myself that I am like agreeing with the story in my head that I'm somehow not worthy or not enough, or, I'm lazy if I don't work more or whatever, I'm like, lazy. Now, right? The me that is me now is able to look at that and go, that's BS. Like, I'm getting amazing results in my business. All the bills are paid. We live in a beautiful house and an amazing part. Like my kid is happy. I'm happy. I work 12 hours a week, if that. Like, my life is amazing. And so, I look at my client, right? So you were mentioned, the simplicity of what you like when your mind is like, blah, 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 but I have to do more. Right. And then you remember, oh no, there are like 2 things that I do in order to grow my business, and they don't even feel like activities. Right, and we figured them out
like work
forever ago. And then whenever you get wonky, you call me and you're like, okay, I feel like I have to do all the things again. And then I'm like, no, you only have to do these 2 things still for the last 6 years. That's it. Right. Like that to me is the ultimate freedom, because then it just becomes so like, you don't have to have decision fatigue. You don't have to like do any of that stuff, because you just get to go, oh, right. It's as simple as, right? Like, so for me, right, it's as simple as I know that if I'm talking to other humans and, it's like, if they're business humans, entrepreneur humans, that's great, right? Like, that's even better. But if they're not, that's also okay. Like, if I'm connecting with other people, then, and I'm being curious about who they are and like actually, genuinely listening and like looking for opportunities and stuff, then my business thrives. And when I'm not, when I'm like hiding out or thinking I need to go and like, get the website copy all fixed up, or like, go do a freaking PR camp, like all of that stuff. I'm like, oh my God. It's just, they're just shiny objects, and it's just more doing. And so I could, right? Like I could do those things. I like that, by the way, that conversation between like we're always saying, don't should all over yourself. And sure. Yeah. Like shoulds are good to be on the lookout for. But I think the next level of that people aren't really looking at is I could do that thing, because all of my clients come to me with all of these things that they're doing. They have a bazillion opportunities and a bazillion activities and all the things. And they're like, well, I could do that. But the question is, but does it really matter? Is it really the most effective way to get where you want to go? Like, how can we boil it down to the most simple possibilities for you to just show up and be you, so that you can be responsive instead of reactive, and not taking action from a place of fear. And again, I want to just bring it back to what you said before too, about it's not about being lazy or not doing anything. It's about being able to, right? Because I think you could still be busy. Like lately I've been busy. Yeah. But I don't feel like I'm hustling. I feel like, but
it's the state of being that you're in. Right. You're not like, there's not enough. I got to go. But I really should be home with my kid. And I wish I had more time. And you're not telling everyone how busy you are, like as if that's the badge of honor. But that's another point that I think is really good to bring up here, is that when to just speak to, like, when people say to me, there's got to be something else, right? They're doing all these things. And that could be that they're leading their team. They could actually have employees. So they feel like there's all this stuff to do, right? Or they could be having their business and trying to make decisions in their business. But this is like reverse engineering, because it's not that you keep doing the things so that you can free up the time when you're 65 years old to live a life. It's like what the reverse engineering that's happening here is that we do the work to feel ease and fulfillment so that you're utilizing way less energy in the present now, so that everything feels more full, so that you have more time to do the things you love, instead of hustling the hell out of life until you get your pension at 65, like in the old days.
Oh my God.
Then you can live. That's ridiculous.
It's so crazy. Kelly, 8 years ago, I was on retreat with the coach that we both coached with. And this was before, again, even before I realized that I should be helping business owners. I was just trying to help everybody. But that was I said those exact same words. That was the premise. I'm like, freedom, fun, and fulfillment. That's what we need to have in our lives. And why the F are we waiting? Like what is it with our mentality as humans, and especially as American humans, that, and by the way, 65 isn't even the age anymore. Like we are so far beyond that. My dad's 72 and he's still like, I guess I should retire. I mean, I kind of can't, right? So like, that's the thing. Like, what are we waiting for? Why, when our bodies are like too old to support us and allow us to do the things we should be, now is all we have. Now is all we have. And that is the thing that I'm constantly like, that is my driver, is presence, because now is all we've got, and my kid is too important, and time with her is too important, and I want that for my clients, and time is like our most precious asset. There is nothing more valuable than that, literally nothing. And we can't get it back. Once it's gone, we can't get it back. And so like, how? But
I think you have a really good point, is that idea that, it's so deeply ingrained. And I'll say Western culture, because I've spent a lot of time in the East, and that is not ingrained there. It's a beautiful thing. But so it's like this Western culture of drive and hard work. And, those people don't have jobs and they're homeless. Those losers got to go work harder. It's like this loss of empathy and loss of connection to self that happens when we're in the constant hustle. It's like, the detriment to the humanity of who we are happens, but it's that belief, that initial, like being able to follow our beliefs back and dismantle them or question them, even just using curiosity. It's like, let me hear the beliefs that I have that fly by in my head that I just agree to act upon, and then pause and say, what if that belief is just not true? Let me look beyond the boundaries of my small social circles and my culture, or the magazines I'm reading, or the shows I'm seeing. Let me look beyond that and see what else there is. Me spending a lot of time for 10 years in Southeast Asia altered who I am, because I know that the beliefs we have here are not the only way. And so I might be a weirdo because I have some alternative thinking, but I know it's possible because I see people living it. It's not coming out of nowhere. It's coming from I know we can live fulfilled lives and be productive and generative and serve others and have enough and just have a loving life, a joyful life, and have time to spend with our families. And that place, the suffering, I think, from hustle is, it's not even, you can't count it. It's the mental, emotional, physical toll of the hustle, of the constant trying and doing. So it's really scaling that back to have conscious awareness. What am I doing? What are my intentions? Why am I doing this? What are the beliefs I have that are unconsciously driving this?
Is it necessary?
Right.
Yeah.
Remember when we did, so Amy and I did a 10-day fun and ease challenge on Facebook, like a
forever
long time ago, it seems like. But I remember one of the tasks, and it was quite popular, but one of the tasks was burn your to-do list.
Yes.
And it was like, some people were like, yay, they totally trusted us and burned their to-do list. And other people, it was terrifying for them. They couldn't get out of their minds to try something different. And I think that was a perfect example, is like, people get attached to the things they think they need to do. And then they can't even see why they're doing them anymore, except that somebody told them or they had an idea. And so I think the important part about the being versus doing is that you're looking at your systems in your mind and you're questioning everything. And then you look at alternatives. Like, once you question it and you get into the state of being that you want to be in, you will see different alternatives. If you're in the hustle, you can't see any other way except hustle. But if you can step back and really understand how to get yourself into the state of being that you want to be in, whether that's centeredness, peace, power, whatever it is, then your mind will think clearly and it will know what to do, and it will let go. It will burn the to-do list of all the nonsense bullshit that you don't need to do, that your mind has been telling you need to do. So your state of being is, I've been experiencing it personally and watching it with others. Like it's direct experience. I know it's more powerful than the mind alone. You need all the parts of yourself to function as a human being, you know.
You mentioned dilution, or like the first few words out of your mouth. And I think that that's so relevant, because when we're not paying attention, right, when we're not attending to like, watching what our actions are, or how we're taking action, or how we're reacting versus being responsive, or like attending to our state of being, then that does create the opportunity for us to get totally diluted, right? Like I think about, in the simplest, the simplest kind of description of how this works is that if we are just remaining aware, attending to our state of being curious about like what's happening or whatever, then it's so simple. Like we just have our primary intention, and we create a trajectory, and we respond accordingly based on how we feel, like who we're being, right? But when we're not, it just gets all mucky and wonked up. And then we think we have to do more. We think we have to try more. We think we have to, take more action and do all these things. And it's interesting. I forgot about that burning the to-do list thing. I've been noticing lately that August, my 6-year-old, has the planner in her. I'm seeing it, and I'm like, oh man, I got to start modeling life differently and be more present, even more present. Like I can be present with her in our relationship, but I got to model what it's like, not asking her at 4:30 what she wants for dinner in an hour and a half, right? Like I got to just start being able to do things more spontaneously, because she'll be like, okay, mama, we're going to the Crayola factory in Pennsylvania. And so first we're going to check into the hotel, and then we're going to relax, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do that. And I'm like, oh no, oh my God. And I know that feeling, because it creates a sense of comfort too. I think, like having things to do, having a plan. There's something very uncomfortable about that unknown of, what if I'm just like, I thought about going to a float tank this weekend. And I was like, oh, I'm sure it'll spark all these ideas around some of these new frameworks that I'm trying to think about. And then I was like, oh, but I'm not going to have a notebook. And then I was like, you know what? That's the whole freaking point, is going into the float tank to be deprived of all your senses so that you can just be. And it's not so that I can then create more ideas and like activate my mind. It's to like create the opportunity to experience that level of discomfort but it's just me here. It's just me. Oh my God. Right. Like that's the opportunity. And I just find it so fascinating how the dilution and like our addiction to like that, the avoidance of that discomfort of just being, I think is so wild. It is so wild. Yeah. So if we were going to like try to kind of encapsulate like a new opportunity, right? Like if we were going to try to say like, okay, cool. We want like our viewers, our listeners are like, all right, I'm seeing where we're going with this. I am noticing that I have this tendency as well to be addicted to doing. And I see the new possibility of how it could be easier. Like life could be easier, perhaps better, more fulfilling, maybe even better results if I'm just more focused on my being than the doing. Then like, I think I've kind of documented what maybe like some next steps might be for people, but do you have any other thoughts about like what else the new possibility is for them and how they might look at things differently?
Well, I want to say one more thing and then just kind of repeat one of the suggestions. The thing that the mind wants you to believe is that if you don't think all the time, if you don't listen to all of the thoughts that go through your mind, because you are not your thoughts, your mind is thinking something. There's someone thinking, there's an action happening, just like you're drinking a cup of water. You are not the drinking. You're also not the thinking. You are actually thinking. There's somebody thinking. So the mind is like, if you don't believe everything I say, all the thoughts I have, you're going to die. Right. But the reality is that you are far more than those thoughts, is that is one fraction of who you are, those thoughts. And that if you stop thinking today, literally, if you just stopped thinking, you would still be doing. Yeah. You would still move through the world. You would still say hello to people. And that is like the big quandary, because people think, if I don't write it down, if I don't plan, if I don't get ahead, and that's just categorically not true. And the only way to know that is through a direct experience yourself. And so that's where I would say, since so many people watching this are going to be very mental, we think, the intellect is very valuable. You might use your intellect to question your beliefs that you hear coming up. That's a really good one, because once you question that belief, then it's in your awareness, and what we observe always changes. So it's like just the observation of our nutty beliefs, like, wait, is that really true? Just the questioning of it is going to bring about a new opportunity. So stay in the curiosity. I mean, to me, that would be the number one thing for people that think a lot.
Yeah.
And that's driving their hustle, and people often, the other thing I would say is your imagination. If you're visualizing, I would say start to let go of some of that stuff. Start to let go of all your mental processes that you can right now. Be quiet, stop reading, stop listening so much, stop taking in more information. Even if you experiment for like, okay, for the next 30 days, I'm not going to read anything new. I'm not going to listen to anything. That's really valuable to give your mind a break so you can watch it. And if you're visualizing, if you're like doing a meditation, visualizing, that's thinking. Visualizing is thinking, imagining is thinking. This is all thinking. So really watching all of this, I think, is the first step towards like, oh, wait a minute. What would life be like if I was being more, focusing more energy onto my state of being rather than just listening to every thought, all these crazy thoughts going on. So,
yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I felt like, if like there were steps, right, that the first step is to notice, right? So like, look at your actions, like look at where you're tempted to take action, look at your results too, like, right, if you look at your results, right, you can see the reflection right in front of you of your state of being and of your priorities and all of that, right? And so look at your results, notice your actions or your temptation to take action. And then within that, noticing the beliefs and the stories that are under there. What is the voice that is your mind that some of us think is all us? Like, that's not necessarily us, right? And that, and so noticing that. And then the second thing would be the curiosity, like, well, what is actually true of the things that I'm hearing in there? What's actually necessary of the actions that I'm tempted to take? Is it really necessary for me to knowing where I want to go? Like, I think about this from the business perspective all the time. My most favorite question is, what's most important with my clients? Because once we know what that is, that's our primary intention. Cool. The most important thing is generating enough profit so that they can, spend more time at home and whatever, then great. Every activity that we take, we're going to filter through that as the indicator of whether we're on the right track or not. So is it true? Is it necessary? Being curious about what we find as we look around at our beliefs, actions, results, and then acting from that. Like, well, there may be a step in between there where you then once you're curious, then you take a moment to get yourself balanced and centered, and then act from that place, from the state of being that you want to be in, that place of, my primary intention is presence. My primary intention is love, whatever, being unattached, like whatever that thing might be. I think that is then the place where you can be responsive instead of just reacting to all the dilution and the stuff and the nonsense and the stories and the fear. Yeah. Anything you want to add to that?
No, I think that's about right. I think that this is it's an uncomfortable thing to start thinking about your state of being versus doing all the stuff and hustling. It's just plain old uncomfortable because there's the fear of loss, the fear of I might fail, I might fall apart, which is exactly why we work with people, right? Like, this is why we do this, because it's the safety net between I don't want to operate like this anymore, and I think I want to operate like that, but like, how do I go from here to there? Like, that's why people like us, and I'm sure there's others doing this, but that's why we do this, because it's like we're the intermediaries that help process, because it's scary, it's uncomfortable. And I just stumbled around willing to lose everything to figure this stuff out, you know? So I'm like, I don't really want others to have to stumble around and have to risk losing everything. I didn't lose everything, but the reality is that, you know, that's what it felt like. So yeah.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
Yeah. I think that's good for just the intro discussion to all of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I think we can wrap it up, put a little bow on it, and call this one done. And if anybody wants to get in touch with either one of us, you can find Kelly at kellysheets.com. You can find me at amyburks.com. And yeah, we love talking about this stuff. So if you ever want to take the conversation further, please reach out and find us, and tell your friends, share the video, whatever, or the audio, whatever, share the episode. We would love that. I think that's everything.
That's all.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
There's that button.